Hello?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Welcome aboard Frank's Magic Bus. For the next 2 hours, Frank Welch takes you on a musical journey with some of the best deep tracks in classic rock history. You'll hear this week's featured artist. Now, without further ado, Frank Welch.
Yeah, welcome to Frank's Magic Bus and welcome to the Grand Illusion. If you love Styx, keep it right here. A special 1 hour of the Magic Bus. Our guest is going to be James Young, or JY, of Styx. We're going to celebrate, talk about the 2012 release of the DVD, the concert DVD of Styx, doing the entire Grand Illusion album and the Pieces of 8 album all the way through. 77 and 78, they put those gems out. Miss America, Renegade, Blue Collar Man, Sing for the Day, Great White Hope, all the great songs around that. And how about their fantastic album rock anthem, Come Sail Away, as we talk one-on-one to James Young of Styx, and he explains a couple of the reasons why they picked these two albums to do in concert and to put on DVD. People that have heard me on the air before come out of a Styx song from one of these albums, Grand Illusion or Pieces of 8. They'll hear me say that is one of the best 1-2 punches in the late 70s heyday of classic rock as far as back-to-back albums. And you chose these two to do all the way through. Now, I'm thrilled, and a lot of fans are, but why did you guys choose these two albums?
Well, the bulk of our set at this point that we did even before we did this project is kind of, Tommy and I chose to kind of focus on those two albums because, well, you've got Renegade on Pieces of 8, you've got Come Sail Away on the Grand Illusion, and those are arguably our two biggest tracks. And to me, those two LPs are the essence of what really catapulted us to the top of the game. We finally got a number one album in '81 with Paradise Theater, but the Grand Illusion is, to me, from start to finish, there's no letdown. It's killer from start to finish. It's under 40 minutes, grant you, but it's 7 tracks, some of them very long, and this little tag on the grand finale kind of a deal. But then Pieces of 8 was the follow-up, and we kind of stuck with the progressive. With a little bit of pomp sneaking in there on occasion, there on Pieces of 8. But it just kind of, to me, that's my favorite time of our career in terms of what we created. We really kind of hit our stride at that point.
I agree 100% at that time. Before I got into a radio, I actually was in trucking, and I was a cross-country trucker, 77, 78, some of the best years of my life, best times. And those two albums, I'm being serious, Grand Illusion, Pieces of 8, are kind of a touchstone in my crazy trucking days because they were the final 2 8-tracks I bought, man, of 8-track tapes.
Grand Illusion sold 1 million 8-tracks, in addition to, obviously, a load on vinyl. And I think cassettes started to be available right around that time. So
get out of here! A million 8-tracks a day.
Million 8-tracks. When I went back, someone, maybe they weren't supposed to, but someone got me the sales figures. Kind of looking back, this was maybe 20 years ago. I asked, just what was the breakdown on that stuff, and it shocked me to see. It's not the best format because just the way they break it down, and it's skinny little tracks. But nonetheless, people had them in their cars, and people like to listen to rock music in their cars.
I know. I was in my truck, like I say, going around the country, and I didn't switch over to cassettes until about, maybe 79 or 80 or so, kind of phased those in my truck. But I had this big old 8-track and AM/FM stereo, man, and I had these Styx albums going. That's right, Styx music and bad truck stop coffee kept me going those years, man. As we continue our conversation with James Young on Styx about the 2012 release of the Grand Illusion and Pieces of 8 concert DVD, we talked to him about how complete those two albums really were. I agree with you that you guys really hit your stride with the Grand Illusion because that's one of those albums, and I'll say this on the air too, it's kind of like a Who's Next to me. It's like there are no bad songs, there are no filler songs of that album.
No filler songs in there.
And I also looked at Pieces of 8 as Grand Illusion Part 2. Do you look at it that way, or there are some differences?
I mean, it's certainly a continuation of, if you look at the 6 albums we did previous to Grand Illusion, that kind of was the distilled essence of our evolution through those first 6 albums, with a great concept come up by my former colleague Dennis DeYoung, and one which we all rose to the occasion on, and we were all personally and professionally had our feet pointed in the same direction there, and we're all Loaded for Bear. I mean, in that time frame, people asked me, you know, when did you know you'd finally made it? And I said, well, when I got out of a cab at 6th Avenue and 57th Street in Manhattan, and someone yelled out Styx the minute I stuck my head out the cab, you know, and we're from Chicago, so I said, you know, when you make it in New York, da-da-da-da. And,
there you go, man. Wow.
And Pieces of Eight, I mean, following up an album that did that well was daunting, and I had felt the one thing we hadn't had was like a real arena rock anthem. And when Tommy brought Renegade in, he wrote the thing, and it had been inspired by kind of an Alan Parsons song, The Raven, I think, which is kind of a quiet synth, dirgy almost, dark kind of a thing, and that's what got Tommy. That's kind of musically what inspired it, and I just thought this thing could really get punched up into a big rock anthem. And so one day because he lived in Indiana, and actually he lived in Niles, Michigan, near South Bend, Indiana, and it'd be a 2-hour drive back and forth for him each commute. So I said, just stay home. I'm going to lay a load of guitars on here, and I want you to come in the next day and give him a day off from driving into the studio and just see what you think. And so virtually all the guitars on there I played. It's my solo and the big power guitars, and Tommy had laid a scratch guitar on there. But so it just was. I mean, Grand Illusion Part 2 is what the question you asked me, and in a way, absolutely yes. And I think it was just a culmination of my own wanting to get that one final big arena rock anthem.
We continue to celebrate the 2012 release of the Grand Illusion and Pieces of Eight concert DVD from Styx. J.Y. explains Renegade wasn't the only hard rock radio staple from that period.
And Blue Collar Man certainly is right in there as well. You know, that is an amazing that song in 2012, based on what's going on for the last, 5 to 10 years in our economy since the year 2000, is everything old is so darn relevant again.
Isn't that right, though? That's amazing that after all this time it kind of come full circle. But
and even the title track, Pieces of Eight, is, there's a dark side to capitalism, and unfortunately a lot of people are experiencing it.
Yeah, I never thought of Renegade being kind of like the Raven on steroids there, but, you had done the pop hits. Everybody remembers Lady, from the mid-1970s. Lorelei was my favorite song until you guys really, I kind of look at it as the Grand Illusion kind of vaulted you guys into not only arena rock album like you mentioned, but also into what I always say when albums were albums, albums where songs would segue into another, and you didn't have to have any rules about a song ending cold and being 3.5 or 4 minutes.
There you go.
And you could kind of go on and be kind of self-indulgent, but you could afford to by that time, couldn't you?
Come Sail Away was a 6-minute song, and there had been some long songs, Stairway to Heaven notably, that violated the 3 and even the 4-minute rule. The record company still wanted us to do, can you edit this thing down a little bit so we can send it to Top 40 Radio? And so we did an edit, which thankfully I think nobody can find anymore.
I don't think I heard that in my truck because I was trucking when that song came out. And that was one of my favorite songs. I think it's one of the greatest power ballads, really, of the 1970s. But that the long synthesizer bridge in the middle.
The A-flat section there, coming back with the killer power re-intro.
Yes, the space sound always just killed me in my truck. I'm so glad I never heard that short AM radio edit, man.
Yeah, because and the great thing about radio at that time is the baby boom had so taken over in terms of what was going on in the music business, and it was fueled by all the different things that were fueling the baby boom at that point in time, and people wanted to hear that in its entirety, and that's what became the hit. Hey, everybody out there in Radio Land, this is James Young from the rock band Styx, and you are listening to Frank Welch.